What's up, guys? So this video is going to be a little bit different than the others. Yes, I'm going to be showing you how to install this kaizen foam. Also, how I'm going to trick this out, how to customize it, for whatever that you want to put in here. I'm going to be putting firearms in there. It's up to you, but it's going to be kind of like an uncut version. So I'm just going to kind of talk about things while I'm doing this and see how it goes. It's the only kind of bad thing about this gig is I don't get to talk about just regular things and, however. So we're going to give it a try. So your kaizen foam, or just your closed cell foam, customizable foam, it's going to come in a box, something like this. And typically they're like 2 foot by 4 foot sheets. You can get smaller versions. I may actually see if my guy can cut these down. The dude that makes the kits for me, or is nice enough to put all this stuff in a kit. That way, we don't have to search the internet for every single strut, light, lock, whatever. Sometimes he's able to, cut the stuff down. That way you don't have to buy a whole sheet whenever you just need a section, because they typically come in 2 by 4 sheets. So I'm going to be putting 2 1/4 inch closed cell in this one. I think in the old build, which that old build was done a long time ago in my garage, I built a fake wall for staging all that stuff. Actually attached it to my off-feed table that I'm using right now. I used, I think it was 2 pieces of 3/4 and glued those together to come up with a little bit of a thicker version. And where the thickness comes into play is going to be stability, because it's going to be hanging on a wall. So unlike the concealment table or the side table or really any of the other ones that I've done, the weight of the firearm is going to be pushing down on the foam. And that's where I ran into an issue with the first version and those 2 glue up pieces. Is after a little while that foam kind of starts to give. So fix that problem. We're going to be putting in a magnet to kind of help with that. May not even need that magnet with this 2 1/4 inch, just because it's going to be a lot more secure in the thicker foam. So first thing that we are going to do is just cut this to size. A couple different ways you can do it. You can set this in here and kind of trace around the bottom of the box. You're going to get more waste, more cuts like that. So it's easier just to make a mark and then, cut your foam. So we're at 10 1/4 and 42. Now I need something to mark on the foam, and I'm just going to mark my 42 out first. Then 10 1/4, we'll mark that. Then we'll make our cuts. Now for cutting this foam, I always just use a box cutter. Again, you can pick these things up, they're super cheap. I like using the small one. The larger one would probably be good for this, just because it's a full thickness cut. But this stuff dulls a knife so quick. Don't use anything good, to cut this. And then to make my remaining marks, you can use any type of a straight edge, but a big sheetrock T-square works great for a lot of things. Comes in super handy around the shop. These T-squares, they're not that expensive. And yes, there's woodworking versions of these. This one's made for sheetrock, but it's pretty awesome for wood, just because it's made to actually hang onto an edge. Now I lost my spot, but yeah. So if you have one of these and you're into woodworking and all that, and you see whoever on YouTube saying you have to have this, this woodworking T-square, yada yada, buy this now. Just know that what you have is just fine. Anybody that knows me or that has followed the channel for long enough, they know that I'm going to shoot you straight no matter what. I said whenever I first got into all of this that I actually told my wife, I will be 100% honest with you guys, that it's not worth it. I'm not selling my soul for this gig. and I haven't, and I won't. Lost my mark. I think it was right there. Oh, double check. Measure twice. Even though I designed the plans for this, I should know the exact dimensions. 42. Yours may be a little bit different, just depending on how you built your cabinet. And I also get a lot of questions. Actually, I'm going to use this for my knife as well to make my cut. But actually, I get a lot of questions about resizing these things. And the answer, basically the questions are typically, hey, I have a larger shotgun, or I want to put an AR in this. Can I make some adjustments? What needs to be changed, in order to accommodate that? The answer is yes. It's easy to make these adjustments to accommodate anything. You just have to consider the depth of what you're wanting to put in here, even if it's not a firearm. Let's say if it's a valuable whatever, bar of gold thing. I want to be your friend, so come visit me if you have like bars of gold laying around. But yeah, you would just make some alterations in the depth of this. Don't get too deep or people are going to notice it. But the length. So let's say that you wanted to throw in a 28-inch barrel, or a shotgun with a 28-inch barrel. It's going to have to be a little bit longer. The only thing that you would have to do is most of the parts are going to stay the same except for the door or the door rails. Just add in the extra length that you want there. Add in the extra length to the top board and then to your backboard and then your divider board. And you can fit, any length that you want. And then let's say that you're wanting to throw an AR in here, so you need something a little bit wider. Make your backboard a little bit wider and then just drop down your divider board. That's all that you would have to do. Look at this cut. As you all know, I like to talk with my hands. And hang on to these little scraps. I know we're the world's worst about hanging on to everything, but these things are awesome for, throwing in inside of a toolbox, whatever, make little sections for sockets, just anything that you want to keep organized and keep from rolling around. Or they make great standoffs, just set material up, cut through it. Let's go ahead and finish getting this cut. And again, the only thing that I'm doing here with this cut is to keep it straight. I'm trying not to go too deep. So I'm cutting, I don't know, maybe an inch at a time. Then I'll go just a little bit deeper. Then I'm going to go backwards towards the end of my T-square just because it's the very corner. Not going to cut. I'm just going to bend this a little bit. It should show me where I need to cut. Okay, so now I'll just use the cut that I've already made as a guide. I'm just going to straighten my knife up just a bit. And just don't get in a hurry for this part because your blade will kind of get sideways. It'll want to drag and bind because this foam is, it's pretty tough stuff. There you are. This is just the beginning of it. Like, this is probably not even going to fit in all that well, just because we're going to have to take into consideration all of our hinges, our struts, the locking latches, and our lock itself, because whenever we go to close this, we're going to have enough room for that lock to be nested in. Yeah, see, so we still have quite a bit, and it could be trimmed down a little bit more, but it doesn't hurt to kind of squeeze this stuff in. Keep in mind that whenever you're customizing this, you don't want to do anything that's going to fasten this down just yet, if you want to end up doing anything at all. Once you get this in and it's nice and tight, it's not going to go anywhere. Don't glue it in or anything like that, because you're going to have to get to this backboard in order to install this. So all of this is going to have to come out. Now, if you're making this for a customer, send it just like this. Let them customize it. You may teach them how, or send them this video. But yeah, every firearm is going to be customize a little bit differently to make sure that everything fits good. Just to double check and make sure that it is going to fit. I think I got to talking and marked 10.5 instead of 10.25. Yeah, I did. So I'm going to get this cut real quick because it's 10.5 instead of 10.25. And then we'll put this in to start customizing. Earlier I said, you know, something about measure twice. And I only did it in one direction. So that's why I had to take that extra foam off of the edge, but we got it to where we need it. It still doesn't look like that it's going to fit, but that's just because of all the rest of the stuff that we're going to have to kind of cut around and customize. It's really not that big of a deal. It won't take us too long if I can work and talk at the same time. Yeah, everything's been prototyped out to work just right. And whenever I say prototyped out, like all of my builds, I build prototypes of. So like the plans actually come after the builds, not like, you know, a lot of other people, they'll do the plans first, and then they'll, you know, do their builds based off of the plans. Mine's opposite, kind of draft everything out just, you know, on graphing paper. I like doing things old school, and then I kind of see in my head the way that I want things to work. Sometimes that works. Sometimes that doesn't work. But just to kind of show you an example, this is a prototype. This was a prototype of the little tree thingy. But this was a prototype of the new concealment shelf. And I built this just out of plywood. And the main thing that I wanted to do was, because I added, you know, the old one, you know, it would run off of just a latch, just a magnetic latch that would just open it, or allow it to open. Then you could just fold it down. Well, I wanted this to do everything on its own. Once you hit the trigger point, you know, struts to open this thing up. I've always been intrigued with any hidden compartment, anything that moves. That's the kind of stuff I love. So prototyping different hinges, prototyping different locks, figuring out what locks would work, what locks would not work. And you guys see the final result. I even prototype or test different stain colors on the material just to see what it's going to look like. And then if something doesn't work on my prototype, then obviously I don't throw it into my build. Just kind of a little behind the scenes there on how I do things. Would this be easier if I did it all on computer program and then it told me if it would work or if it wouldn't? Yeah, but this is more fun. Use your imagination, prototype this stuff out, because I've came up with a lot of cool ideas in the middle of prototyping. Like, hey, let's change this to this or however. And I love the biometric locks, but unfortunately, you know, for this build, biometric wouldn't work because of the constant up pressure by these two struts that I had to use. It's a little more force. And what happens is whenever you go to release that, unless the lock has a mechanism in there to actually retract the lock with enough force, it gets stuck. So there was a couple of the biometrics that I wanted to use that just didn't have enough force to overcome the struts, the force of the struts going up. This lock that I'm using, it's actually really, really good about, you know, doing that with pretty much anything. But let's go ahead and get this put in. See, I got sidetracked again. First thing I'm going to do is just slide this in, and it's not going to go all the way back because of our hinge. And it's going to hit on this other side as well. I could pop those loose if I wanted to, but the only thing that I'm needing right now is to push this back all the way against the top board there, essentially to where it's going to tuck down into here. Then I'm going to mark where this damper or strut. Just FYI, for those that don't know, a strut is what pushes, a damper is what eases things down. I'm just going to mark that, just kind of the thickness of it, and then just get a rough idea. Now, none of this stuff has to be perfect because we're not going to be going all the way through it. Just get a rough idea of the thickness of it. So now I have this little square here, and I'm going to cut that out, push this back in, and I'm just going to make a little mark for the bottom, or I can grab a quick reference from the bottom, it's 1 inch, and I can do it that way. So I'm going 1 inch down, insert my blade there at 1 inch. Okay, and I'm going to go across. I'm just breaking this glue up. There's just glue layers here. And that's where I'm going to go down. And the mark that I made earlier, just going out there. And if you wanted to, you could just set your blade depth to 1 inch. And then you'll know. You can just follow your marking. And once you get that cut all the way down, I like to go both ways in my corners just because, you know, wherever you start, like if you start in the corner, you have the back part of your blade that's not cutting. But 1 inch down, and then just peel this out. And it should peel out at the closest glue layer, like that. And we can fine tune this. We're probably going to have to, because I don't know why I didn't just think of this, but as this damper comes down, we're going to have to take some out of all of this. But this is going to give us an idea of where to start. And then for the hinge itself, I'm going to push it all the way in as far as I can. I just want this side touching. And while it's in, I'm just going to outline my hinge, both sides. And I'll have to measure the depth as long as I have my outline. And that's going to be, we'll say 1 3/8 inches. It's always better to go a little extra versus a little shy on these, so the foam doesn't pinch your hinge or anything like that. And just another little square. We'll cut that out, and I'm going to cut this one. It actually goes in. If you wanted to get really fancy with it, you know, you could. Actually, it goes under. Scratch the 1 3/8 inches, because the 1 3/8 inches was to the end of this part of the hinge. This is going to actually sit under this, and we're only going to need 5/8. So, you know, this is the kind of stuff that would typically, you know, I may show the mistake, or if it's something that typically I'll show the mistake if it's, you know, I actually cut a piece and mess up, you know, just a simple measurement. I don't want to mess people up, you know, so stuff like that's usually the things that will be edited out if I just realize it, especially a lot of these builds. You know, I'm making changes as I go, and I'm just going to go straight down. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom with this, all the way through, because the hinge itself goes almost to the bottom. Now you could, if you wanted to, you could heat this knife. By heating the knife, it's going to make this stuff cut like butter, but it sets up on your knife pretty quick, and your knife will not last very long. It's kind of like they actually make foam cutters, you know, for this stuff. It's a little rod that gets hot. Yes, it cuts through like butter, but then you have all this foam stuff stuck to it. I just haven't had much luck on keeping things the way that I want. Some people love it. But the one thing that you could do just to clean all of this stuff up, because when you cut this foam or pull it out, it's kind of, you know, looks like this. It's I don't know, it's not real smooth like this. You could just heat something and set it on the outline of whatever you're putting in here, and it's going to kind of smooth it out. It's just going to melt it a little bit and seal it back off. So that's those two. As you can see, that's going to fit in there nicely. I'm going to go ahead and do this for the other two. These two over here, we're going to do those the exact same way. Then we'll go ahead and get this latch cut, and then we'll make our cuts for our lock and the two struts here. All right, so as you can see, everything is fitting good. Just cut the opposite side the same way as I did this one. The only thing that we have to do, as you can see, it will not close because of this strut here. So we need to cut this out to fit that strut. So I'm going to just measure my distance from the top. We've got about, we'll say 2 3/8, so we don't have to get into 16ths. And remember that this overlays our divider. Okay, so I'm just going to measure over 2 3/8 and make my mark. I'm going to go ahead and do this on the opposite side as well. All right. And for this one, we were about 1 inch in all the way down. So let's keep it that way. Let's keep it looking nice. 1 inch in, and we were only about 1 inch deep with this. You know, we can do the same, we'll do the same thing all the way across, and it should work out just fine. And we'll be taking this back out, you know, this foam, so we can cut this a little easier. We'll just pop this back out. Just make sure not to get marker on your material here. Pop this out. We're gonna have to bend it just a hair. Just don't want to tear the foam. Let's pull that out. I'm just gonna use a straight edge here, just something to help me keep everything straight, or keep my blade straight at least. Down, and again, you can set this for right about 1 inch if you want. As you can see, I'm just using the side of my whatchamacallit here, because that blade is 1 inch thick. This is combination square. Do you ever do that? Just like randomly forget a tool that you use every day, forget what it's called, or a kid's name. So we're at 1 inch there, and we can just measure down 1 inch on the side. Actually, since I just told you that this is 1 inch thick, just use this. I'm just going to go down 1 inch from the top. As you can see, it kind of pulls off in the layers. Pretty cool stuff. So a lot of times you can just customize it, like with your fingers. Whenever we get to customizing the fit, the firearms, things like that, or whatever that you want to store in this thing. Again, I keep saying firearms because that's what I'm going to store in this thing. So we're going to do the exact same thing for the opposite side. And then we'll go ahead and cut out our placement for our lock and latch. All right, so I'm just going to ramble, you know, while I'm making these cuts. This is kind of the boring part, you know, behind the scenes. Is like if you have a build with repetitive cuts, things like that, you know, it's the things that people don't see that take so long when you're making a project, especially recording a project, you know, moving the camera around, getting different angles, just so people can understand how things are done. You know, it's needed. It takes, I don't know, I would say this build, it took me several days to record, whereas I could have built this in a day. Yeah, like the prototype. Yes, it was a prototype, it's rough, but, you know, I had it built in a day and testing it. You know, when you're recording, so to teach people, you know, I have to change my wordings. I don't use scripts or anything like that. So I'm constantly having to change the way that I've said something, just so people could understand that may not know certain terminology, whatever. Kind of like how I had to do with the rails and styles. I want everybody to be able to learn how to build, you know, anything that we make on the channel. And that was also a goal of mine, you know, from the very beginning, was to make it to where anyone can build. That's why, you know, you don't see me using, yes, I have a double head drum sander over there. I have a shaper, nice bandsaw. You know, you don't see me using hardly, well, you don't see me using this stuff. I think I've used the shaper and the joiner, you know, in a couple builds, but not the shaper, the drum sander. But I would love to use the shaper in a couple of videos. It's a crazy awesome tool. But how many people have shapers at home? So I won't do it. You know, I'll, you know, make a 45-degree cut, or tell somebody that's comfortable using a router to do that. What I always hated about even the old school TV shows, you know, This Old House and stuff like that, was they had all these tools that normal people didn't have, or used terminology that was way above my head for the time. And a lot of channels out there right now still do it. But I guess that's the difference between entertainment and teaching channels. So I guess it's fair enough. But it's just a pet peeve of mine. Plus, working in the medical field for so long, most of you all know, some of you don't, I was a nurse for over 15 years. I'm actually still a nurse, so probably 18 years now. but you know, the doctor's talking over patients' heads, trying to sound smart. I hate that. So what I'm doing here is just testing that out. We may have to make some more adjustments as we go just to these dampers, but let's go ahead and get our box cut out, not our box, our lock, and latch area cut out. Then we'll know for sure whether we need to make any more adjustments. So what I'm doing here is I'm just lowering this down until it touches my foam. I just want to know the width of it, okay, and where it actually hits the foam, because we're going to be cutting all of that out. So I'm just going to mark both sides of the box. It hits right on this edge. So I know that, let's go with this. If I take out 2.5 inches, which is the width of my box, I have the depth of my box there. I have the width already marked right here. Just going to set this up, and I'm just going to mark 2.5. Let's go in a little bit more. Let's just take her to 6. I talk to myself a lot while I'm working too, so I figured I might as well record it. We're just going to go in 2.5. And the reason why I'm not just cutting this right now is because what if this thing slips or something like that? I like to have a reference to throw it back on. You know, if I was cutting this, then it's done. And this stuff's not really cheap. So we're going to cut this completely out. The reason why is, again, this latch goes, let me take a look at something here. We may not have to cut it. Actually, we don't have to cut it all the way out. We'll try something just to keep it a little more clean. I'm going to measure down right to where the latch comes out of its housing. So that is going to be 1.25 inches from the bottom. So I'm going to leave 1 inch. I think that that'll work. I'm just going to set my blade for 1 inch deep. We'll cut it out that way. If it sounds like I have a different kind of a voice, well, for one thing, half the time I'm talking into a box, so it's going to echo, but I kind of have a little bit of a cold going on. It's not that I've changed my voice in the audio or however, which actually I do have to change my voice in the audio. If you've watched videos from the past, and it sounds like my voice is like super deep at the very, you know, whenever I first started putting stuff out, it's because my voice is actually super deep, especially in the mornings. But I had a lot of older folks that was having a hard time actually understanding what I was saying. You know, the country accent, that doesn't help all that much. But my voice is so deep that there was too much bass. So those low frequencies and things like that, those low sounds, they couldn't quite hear. So I started taking some of the bass out of my voice, you know, just so everybody could understand what I'm saying. Just going to check my thickness. It's good. It's good. It's good. What movie was that from? You know what movie was that was from? Let me know, because I say it all the time. I just edited it out. It's good. It's actually kind of satisfying. And what I'm doing here is, you know, part of the bottom level or level below what I'm pulling out came out, but it left some high points in the middle. And you'll actually have that whenever you're cutting it out. You just have to just peel it off. All right, so with that cut, let's see if we can push this in without having to cut through it around this latch. And okay, so this is what's jamming me up right now. Easy fix, but it's going to be this latch. You know, I brought it down to where this box could go in and latch, but I did not cut out the notch right here to actually go around the latch. And the latch is offset. You'll notice it's a little bit to the right inside this cutout. That's because on the box itself, where the latch connects, it's further to the right. So I'm just going to take my knife and slice this out around my latch. No big deal. Pop this up, just give me a little more working room. She's in there tight. Oh, but back to my voice. I guess I got a little bit of a cold or something, whatever. Weather here's been nuts. It's been warm and then super cold, and my heater's out in my shop, so it is what it is. It was snowing like, I don't know, an hour ago. Yeah, the struggle is real here. Definitely on the struggle bus with this one. Now she fits. That could have been a little bit cleaner there, but is what it is. Let's see if this box is going to latch. Bingo. So as you saw, everything works, latches, so that means that our cutouts for our struts, lock, all that stuff are just fine. Now we get to the fun part of customizing this thing. Again, customize it for whatever that you want to put in there. If you've got, some John Wick gold coins to drop up in there, drop those in there. Whenever I'm building concealment furniture, yes, I'm building it to conceal anything. I mean, that's the name of the game. It's a hidden compartment, which is awesome. I love hidden compartments. I'm designing it with the intention of it being able to work with firearms. And if you don't want to put firearms in it, then put something else in it. But that's what I like doing. That's what I like building, is what it is. It's kind of this culture that we're in now that limits some of my builds and what I can do and what I can't do. And that's, one of the reasons why this is on another channel. Guns are not for everyone. And trust me, they should not be for everyone. And I absolutely respect that. But for those of us that, enjoy shooting, or it's a way of life or part of your culture like it is for me, then the equal respect should be shown. Doesn't always work that way, obviously, but is what it is. I'll tell you a little bit more about my feelings on that, as I'm cutting this, but if I get into a rant, then nothing's going to get done. Okay, so whatever type of firearm that you want to put in here, I like this tactical shotgun for, home protection, things like that. That's typically, in my opinion, what would work well for home protection. You don't have to worry about shooting through walls, things like that. So these are one of my go-tos. But as you can see here, we have plenty of room. And this is just part of the process of figuring out how you want this laid out, is just to lay whatever that you want in here, see where you have extra room, what would look cool. Like, if I lowered this down a bit, I could probably fit a row of ammo up top, of shells. Also brought down this little 380 just to see how it would fit. And actually, there's plenty of room. Full size 9 may fit there. Let me see. It's good. Fits good. So you can actually put a full size gun, pistol in here with it. And then again, if you do not have, one of these little tactical shotguns, just expand your box out a little bit for whatever size shotgun that you have. Or you don't have to put a shotgun in there at all. You could line these things with these babies, or like I said, drop it down if you want to throw an AR in. And then I always like to build mine with extra mag capacity. So if I want to be putting in a pistol, that looks good. If it facing up, I want the pistol in there. I want a place where the mag can go, completely separate. That way, in case you need it, you can grab and go. And then right here, we're going to need something. I like to fill these things up. So I may just put a tactical knife here, whatever. Actually, this little 380. Yeah, that'd be cool. That little 380 works well there. And then over here, I think I'm going to put some extra shotgun ammo over here. Don't think I've got it here. So if you ever came into my shop, yeah, don't be surprised that there's firearms and stuff, safely put away. But here, it's kind of like the 9 I pulled out of thin air. But yeah, so this is kind of the layout that I want. And then I'll get the mag, this little mag for the 380. I'll put that there. And I'll grab this, just grab some shotgun shells and throw them right here. I like this look. Or you can reverse it, depending on if you're left-handed, right-handed, whatever. It doesn't matter. Design it however that you want. Lay it out however that you want. This is what you do. Once it's laid out, next we're going to trace. Okay, so we're back in grade school here. We're just tracing things. I'm going to start off with shotgun. And of course, anytime you handle a firearm, this is the thing that gets me is, and kind of gets people in trouble is, they don't know what they're doing with a firearm. If you're not comfortable using one, if you haven't been taught the proper way to handle one, then don't do it. I mean, it is what it is. I don't know if you noticed me, I emptied all of this earlier. A lot of us, common sense stuff. Again, worked as a nurse, worked in the ER for a long time, and we had I took care of a lot of patients that had gun wounds from unloaded weapons. So if you are around another person, always do 4-eye checks. It's what we always do. Me, my family, whatever, when we're hunting, shooting clays, target practice, 4-eye checks. You handle it like it's loaded at all times. But that's my little spill there. Okay, so I'm just going to start with the shotgun. Just gonna get it to where I want it, where it's nice and even, level. I want my barrel to be level. This looks better. Make sure this stuff's still gonna fit. Oh yeah. Okay, so let's trace this shotgun. And with this, it does not have to be, because we're gonna modify this as we go. It doesn't have to be just perfect. I'm just taking this Sharpie and bringing it up, taking it along the edges. Now this part, whenever it comes to cutting this out, you can be as detailed as you would like, because every part on a firearm has a different depth to it. Personally, I typically take it to the top, the top dimension, the top depth, with exception of maybe the trigger here. You can see the triggers at the halfway point of going down. Sometimes I'll take these down, to just the halfway point. That way there's not a lot of extra space underneath. Then other times I like to go ahead and take that out, like with the pistols. That way you don't go to grab something and there's foam in your way and you're having to like peel these things out. Leave a little extra space there, but ultimately you can design this however that you like. Now let's get to cutting. So for the cutting part, we just need to determine our thickness of the shotgun. Again, it's going to be different thicknesses at different parts of the gun to keep it level. So what I'm going to do is take out this entire profile at the thinnest level, and then anything that's a little bit thicker, let's say this pump here, we'll go ahead and bring that down just a little bit more. That way everything sits level. I like all this stuff to sit level, and it's going to have to sit level with the top of this foam in order for the cabinet to close. I'll get my little handy dandy knife here. I'm just going to set this to the depth that I'm going to be needing. I'm going to do a quick measurement of the thickest part, and it's right at 2 1/4. So we're going to have to go all the way down, for our handle here, our action. And I'm going to cut everything out at barrel depth to start with. And whatever you put in here is going to be a little bit different. But have everything traced out, transferred over, and I'll just start cutting. Again, the trigger, I'm going to go ahead and take that down to the same depth. Doesn't really matter where you start. If you want to do the depth, just lock your blade, and you can kind of do the jigsaw action up and down to do it slowly instead of taking several passes all the way around, to get your depth. It will make a nice clean cut. But yeah, back to the firearm issue and, my beliefs. And I don't talk about it a whole lot on the other channel, again, just out of respect for folks that, aren't comfortable and, they don't want to use firearms. They've never been exposed to firearms, and they shouldn't be using firearms. So I don't talk about it. And oftentimes that's just kind of the best way, because I'm not going to argue with someone to see my point of view on something when, I may be closed-minded to their point of view on the same thing. We're all from different walks of life, so they're never going to understand, my appreciation for firearms and things like that. And I'll never understand, their ideas of why not, or why they don't like, or why they choose to not, appreciate these things. There's a lot of people that grew up in cities and things like that that just absolutely have never been exposed to them. The only thing that they see is negative stuff, on the news, and that's completely fine. But a lot of people have to understand that stuff like this is a part of certain people's heritage, like myself. I grew up small town Kentucky. It's a normal thing, even kids, growing up to, shoot BB guns. You start off with a BB gun. You learn gun safety from that. And, then you move on, and oftentimes, before you're 10, you have a 22 for squirrel hunting and things like that. But gun safety. The rules. And it's, something that is passed down to you, the knowledge of being able to, or knowing how to use something like that and to provide for yourself. So mine, a lot of it came from my grandfather. He was career military, and, he grew up in super, super poor area of our county. It's actually the same town that Bill Monroe grew up in. And if anybody's familiar with bluegrass, still pretty poor area, unfortunately. But during the Depression, they had to hunt to survive. I mean, that is how they survived. And they had to learn survival skills, setting rabbit snares, anything that they could do to make some extra money. That's where I get my love for the outdoors and my appreciation for the outdoors and anything outdoor related. Mine is an appreciation. He appreciated the outdoors as well, but his stemmed from life or death. Like they had to have it, and that's where the respect for the outdoors and everything comes from as well. He understood that you cannot take or keep taking from Mother Nature, be it a garden or anything else, and not do anything, not give anything back. Or if you do that, she will quit providing. And I'm not a hippie or anything like that. It's common sense. You can't keep taking from anything and expect to never have to give anything back. So that's why I say it's a heritage thing, or culture. It's how you were raised. It's how I was raised. And my whole family hunts. And we hunt and we eat what's provided to us from the hunt. Everything. We do not take anything that, we can't eat. So again, everybody was raised different. Not everybody had grandfathers like I did. They didn't grow up, hanging out with buddies and shooting, trap, after school. And that was another thing is back then, which I'm 43 years old, I'm getting up there. I had a gun rack in the back of my truck, and went to school that way. So every good old boy out there, had a rifle and a shotgun in their truck. Actually, for hunting season, which back then whitetail season was right around 2 weeks long. Now we get a little bit longer, but it was an excused absence from school to hunt. So if you took off of school to hunt, it was completely excused. Like, it's all you had to do is a letter from your parents saying Matthew's hunting during hunting season. That's it. Excused absence. Because there were so many families, even then, that relied on hunting season for their meat for the entire year. If you had a bad hunting season, like when blue tongue hit, it was going to be a lean year, just more beans and cornbread. And there's a lot of people out there that think that all of that is things of the past. That people aren't in that kind of situations anymore. The government's going to take care of them. No, there are still a lot of people out there that they hunt to survive. It's sad that people don't get that. It is what it is, I guess. But that's just the way that I see things based on my experience in life. And knowing that not everyone has had the same experience, I can understand that they may not, that they may be ignorant to, not calling anyone ignorant, but ignorant to the fact of, how things are for some people. They just assume that, everything is the same, for them as everyone else. And that's why I say, if someone doesn't want to store a firearm, they're not feel safe handling something like that, then don't do it, because I understand that we all come from different walks of life. But in return, give me the same respect. Understand that we're different. We don't have to have an argument. We don't have to have a conversation about it. I respect what you believe in. You respect what I believe in. Okay, so after going on a little story there, got this all traced out. Now that's all that I'm going to do is, instead of trying to pull all of this out at once, because it's just going to be more tearing, I'm just going to make some cross cuts in sections. Just break this down into a little bit more manageable sections, because we're going to be getting our fingers in here to pull this out. Right. Now that I have that cut, that's all I'm going to do is I'm going to start going down a couple layers at a time. I'm not going to go all the way down just yet, but I'm just going to take out a couple of layers. And you can see how it actually just pulls up like in a nice little layer there. It's not going to be completely smooth. This is the part where I was talking about. You could take something hot and put it down in there and it just kind of melt smooth. This is the part where it's, be nice to have a bucket or something just to throw these scraps in, because this stuff will end up everywhere. And we're just going to pull this out. And back to, I don't know, I've got this on my mind, but I know what people are going to say. The firearms that you are showing here, those are not, firearms that you need to sustain life or that you hunt with. You don't hunt with a pistol, whatever. Well, that wasn't the point of what I was talking about. The point is firearms themselves are a part of a lot of people's heritage. It's what we're comfortable with. It's what we were brought up around, taught how to use, their hobbies, their sports, like shooting clays. I don't know how it is everywhere else, but the Boy Scouts around here, the 4-H clubs, they all have trap programs, shooting clays. And then a lot of this stuff is 100% to protect my family, and some people don't agree with that, and you do you, I do me. The people that know or have a history and a connection to this kind of thing, they have taught their children the exact way that they were taught, and it's something that is generational that will be passed on. Long story short, let's just all get along. All right, so I'm just pulling the rest of this out to the thickness that I had my blade set at, and we'll just keep working it. Sometimes it takes a little while, especially when you're adding multiple items in, so we'll speed this process up just a bit. And I'll quit talking a little bit more. You can kind of get the point of what I'm doing here. And we'll be back whenever we go to test this out. Right, I have a profile here. I know it's not deep enough in some areas, but let's just see. Okay, so we have the stock is holding us off just a bit. Looks like our grip is as well. So we'll bring this down. Looks like there's extra room here. I'm going to bring this down, then we'll kind of see where we're at and go from there. And for this, you can cut this down, or you can just kind of say, okay, I need to go down, 2 more layers, and just kind of pull, stick your fingers under there, pull out a couple of layers, and just keep following that level, all the way around. And it'll come out just like that. Now for the handle here, I am going to make a cut because it's kind of like right in the middle, just so that I don't take too much of where my barrel's sitting. And this is just like woodworking, You can always take a little bit more, but it's real hard to put it back on. So be patient with it. Go down level at a time, a couple levels at a time, refit. Nice. We are getting there. Okay, so now I can see the receiver here is actually starting to hit in the back. So I'll take the receiver down a little bit. Looks like the barrel actually down here looks good. And by the time I bring this receiver down, a little bit here, and a little bit more on the stock, and we should be set. All right, so I'm going to speed this process up just a little bit. I'll just kind of talk about a couple of things that's on my mind while I do this. Like I said, this is something new. Don't get to just chit-chat a whole lot. But whenever I first started building concealment furniture, it was actually before YouTube. Not before YouTube. I've only been doing this for a few years. But when I first started building concealment furniture, and I was actually using social media platforms to advertise, because I'm selling this stuff, and I had a website set up for orders, and I was using TikTok. I had created a little bit of a presence there, and I was using TikTok to just kind of show the product. Again, this was set up in my garage. I built a fake wall, all that good stuff. And the first time that I was banned from TikTok, yes, the first time, it seems like I stay banned, which I don't care. But first time that I was banned was for a concealment shelf. So this concealment shelf, it's okay for half-dressed young girls to, be dancing around. It's okay, for stuff like that to be posted. But if you post a firearm of any kind, they will ban you. And that's what I did. And I was banned. And as soon as I got out of the ban, I put it right back. And then they banned me even longer. So on and so forth. Second time I was banned, there's another concealment build. I knew I was going to get banned on that one. I was just really doing that one for fun. Just so they'd have to go through the work of banning me again. And then the last time I was banned, yes, I've been banned that many times. Probably banned right now. I don't even know. Okay. Looks like everything is sitting nice level. May have to go down on the receiver just a little bit. We'll bring down this, we'll bring down our handle a little bit more, and this should be good. Nice tight fit. But the last time that I was banned had nothing to do with a firearm. And this was when I stopped posting regularly anything. I don't make anything for the platform anymore at all. Just because of this instance. But I did a voiceover video, made it myself, talking about the trades, talking about woodworking, you know, just in general, the trades, electricity, plumbing, welding, which all of my children, you know, are into those trades. I have a welder, I have one that's into construction and framing, and then another one that's HVAC and electrical. The trades, you know, I made a video that just showed the kids working around the farm. They were welding, they were working in the garden, you know, there was no firearms in the video, but it was just, you know, the kids working. They were learning, you know, the things that I would teach them, and they were loving it. And I made a voiceover for that was just the point of don't be afraid to teach your kids or to tell your kids that it's okay that they like these kind of trades, that it's okay to get dirty, you know, to work, to use your hands to work with. You know, that's what, you know, runs our country. And that's what I was trying to put out there. It's because, you know, the schools tried to sway my kids. I can only speak for myself. My kids, that only college educated people will make anything of themselves. And I've taught my kids that is not the truth. I have 3 degrees myself, and I'm 100% for the trades. So just a hair more. Don't need to go down anywhere else. Just on the handle, a little bit in the front. So with his voiceover, again, only thing I said is, you know, and I'm showing a montage of the kids working. Teach them that it's okay. And like in all these pictures, they're smiling. I mean, they're having a good time. I mean, we're learning things together. Teach them that it was okay to work with their hands, you know, get dirty. There's no shame in that. Put this video up, you know, and it's supposed to be kind of an inspirational video just to, you know, kiddos that like that kind of stuff. You know, the world's already so full of, if you don't have this, then you haven't made it or whatever. Just negativity. Well, post this video. Doing great feedback. Then it gets taken down. Okay, so they start off just by taking a video down in a lot of cases, unless there's firearms and they bang you. But so I'm like, okay, whatever. But I didn't understand why they took it down. And so I put it right back up. And within, I don't know, a couple minutes, it was down. I was banned for showing, what they call it, child abuse. They said that it was child abuse. It was a video that showed child abuse because my children were working. And after that, I just said, forget it. I'm done with it. You know, this is ridiculous. I did put one more up on the speed loader because I knew that was going to get me banned. As soon as I got out of jail for the last one, TikTok jail, I had built a speed loader, and I knew that one wasn't going to be for everybody. Completely understandable. Put that baby up and blocked it. They took it down. But the crazy thing is on that one, okay, this is good to go. I'm going to bring this down just a hair, but you get the point. I'm actually not going to record me cutting this stuff out. I'll show that at the end. You see how I'm doing this and jibber jabbering the whole time. We're going to go ahead and move on to installing lights, magnets, things like that. Just other little ways to trick this thing out. But the crazy thing about that one is a couple of days later, after they had taken it down, and I was surprised that they didn't block me, like banned the account. They sent me a message. They said, your account, or you recently had a video that was taken down. Would you like to, what's the word? I know you guys are saying it right now. Dispute. Would you like to dispute this decision? I'm like, well, this is weird. I've never gotten this before. They just banned me, whatever. And of course, which I know their rules, you know, no firearms or anything to do with firearms. And it was a speed loader. But I'm like, screw it. Yes. As soon as I hit yes, my entire account went black and I was completely banned. Then I realized that that was a test. They had no care what I thought, whether I wanted to dispute it, whether I didn't. It was a yes or no. Do I want to go against their decision? And as soon as I hit yes, my entire account was shut down. Think about that. Like, there was no dispute process. They didn't come back to me 2 days later and saying, okay, we came to the same conclusion. It was yes, black account. That's it. Because I questioned their decision, they banned me. Just something to think about. I thought it was kind of odd. I knew it was kind of odd, and I knew exactly what they were doing, but it is what it is. Really no skin off my back because I only put the video up there to get banned anyway. Okay, so enough chit chat. Let's get on to some more cool stuff. I'm gonna throw in a light, maybe two. Again, this is gonna be motion sensor and the magnets. So the magnet, the reason why I'm going to put a magnet in, and I have a couple of different ones that I've tried out. I'll make sure to link all of this stuff, but we have these kind of longer magnets, two small ones put together, and then these larger round magnets. They're both cool. They both work just fine. They're very strong. And the cool thing is they're coated. They're not that expensive either. They're coated in a rubber so it doesn't harm your firearm. It doesn't scratch it or anything like that. So it's not going to shake loose, but you can peel it off pretty easy. I'd say the double is probably a little stronger than just this one round one. I'm actually going to use it for the shotgun. And the reason why I'm going to use it is, again, once this thing is up, the weight of this thing is constantly going to be pushing down on this foam. And I don't want to, let's say this thing pops open, you jar it somehow. I don't know how it would even happen, but this just extra safety. I don't want it to fall out, anything like that. And again, once it's nested down in all of this foam, it's not going to fall out. But this just adds that extra level of, safety to it to keep it from falling out. So these things are awesome. We'll get those installed. And you can do the same thing for the pistols if you would like. Again, they're going to be nestled all the way down in here because the lid's going to go flush with this. They're not going to fall out unless you leave too much room. And that's another thing. If you mess this foam up and there's too much room around it and it's too loose, no worries. Don't redo all of this foam. It's too expensive. You can just pick up one of these magnets that are made for firearms and pop it in. Let's go ahead and start with the magnet, and then we'll move on to the lights. They kick the heat on for a minute. It's getting a little chilly. Like I said earlier, heat's not doing so well. It's about 40 degrees up in here, so kick that diesel heater on every now and then just to knock the chill off. Actually, the cold really doesn't bother me all that much. Growing up working in the sawmill, it was about a 14,000 square foot plant with 6 inches of concrete. And when it got cold, it was cold. There's nothing, that you can do to heat a place like that. I guess there is, but we didn't. As they would say, the heat's in the wood. If you get cold, work harder. All right, so made a couple of changes here. Went ahead and just cut out the spots for the extra pistols that I'm putting in. Went ahead and put in some shells like we had talked about. Changed out the pistols. I wanted to see if a 45 would work here, and it actually fits great. So went ahead and threw a 45 in there, and just to match here, I just added in the Kimber 380. Beautiful firearms, work great. But that's the cool thing about this, the foam itself, is you can customize it to fit anything that you want. So I just thought that would look good. So now let's get on to our lights here. The lighting, depending on what type of a concealment build that you're doing, can be a little bit tricky. You really don't want the light to, be shining out like this, because then it's just gonna be light in your eyes whenever this thing, opens up. Realistically, you want it to kind of shine down, onto your firearms once the case opens. Can't mount it here. Not enough room. You can put it off to the side through here, but you know, you're really not getting the look that you want. If I hadn't put in, you know, this extra mag here, I could have put, you know, a light here and a light here. That probably would be ideal. And that way it illuminates both sides. So what I'm going to do is, actually I'm going to put this in the center like this. And that way it will be, yeah, like that. That way that whenever this opens, we'll have a light shining down and we can see everything that we need. So since this is going to be closing, it has to have a place to go, and that's going to be right in here. So really you have to position this to where it's going to fit. We're not going to have to go down very far. You know, this light is pretty slim there, maybe a 1/2 of an inch. And then we'll go down a little bit further, you know, just for the motion sensor in the middle. Again, all of these things I'll make sure to link in the description, and you can pick these things up if you like. Again, I'm just laying this here for reference. It's actually going to be mounted here, stuck there. However, as this folds up, that'll just be, you know, where it's nested. And then once we get this up, I'll go ahead and put a magnet in the back just to hold this shotgun into place. And like I said, the shotgun will probably hold into place just fine. Just an extra safety, you know, thing. For as cheap as these things are, it's not going to hurt, you know, hurt at all. Always better safe than sorry. Coffee. Had to warm my bones up. Live off the stuff pretty much. Okay, so to cut this out, and I keep losing my blade. Again, I'm just going to set my blade to the depth of the light here. I'll cut this out, and then we'll just go to the very center of it and cut out our motion sensor. And there's tons of great things that you can do with this foam. If you have any other ideas, you know, besides the obvious, you know, organization of, you know, different tools and things like that, shoot them my way. I'm always interested in getting creative with stuff like this. And one piece of foam, like if you end up getting a 2-foot by 4-foot sheet, one piece of that foam will be enough to do 2 of these concealment boxes, or concealment coat racks, haul trees, whatever that you want to call them. And if you do have like a little tear like this, you know, you run the risk of that the more stuff that you put in here. Then you can just see how you glue this back together. No big deal. And there's another good thing about this. So I'm just kind of seeing how this fits, because it's going to be the same and it's opposite. Because with the door closed, it's going to need to be inset all the way. That's another thing, you know, with the magnet that we're going to install here shortly. The more cutouts that you make, the weaker this foam gets that's, you know, supporting the firearm above it. So, you know, the magnet's definitely needed. All right, so we have that. So now I'm just going to put this light in. I want it kind of like this. I'm going to put this light in kind of upside down and peel the sticker off the back. Then I'm just going to lower this down, and theoretically it should just stick to it where it needs to be. Well, theoretically I was wrong. Oh, it's because this panel is raised. So we didn't have to go quite as deep. Okay, let's try this one other way. Build this back up. We'll do it this way. Still has to have a place to nest into. Just gonna line that back up with my hole. There we go. All right, so let's give this a little try. This light, I just kicked it on. It'll kick off like after like 30 seconds, but everything fits good. Nice. Lights this all up really well. Now let's add this baby in, and then pretty much done. Still have to add some coat hooks, things like that down through here, but I'll do that another time, a little bit later. So I want this to go directly behind this receiver. It's going to be like right in here, kind of the center right there. And the only thing that I'm going to do with this is we're going to trace this out. This will most likely go all the way through. Actually, I'm going to bring this all the way through to the wood. That way I can screw it directly into the backboard. Just trace it in place. Pretty easy to get to, and I don't have to worry about scratching anything. Let's see what it looks like. Yeah, I'm going all the way through it. All right, we'll set that in there, and that should work out great. Let's just do a little test. It'll come out with shotgun because it's not screwed in yet. Bam. All right, so now I'm just going to find a couple screws that will be 3/4. Yeah, that'll give us a 1/2 inch in. 3/4 screws, 7/8, a couple 7/8 screws. This does have the, the 3M backing here. For something that heavy, I'm just going to drop a couple screws in. But that's about it. Once I get these screws in, everything will be as it needs to be. And it's as simple as that. So this is the kind of stuff I really like to do. Like I was saying earlier, it's kind of my hobby. It's just a part of my culture and what I do. Awesome project too. It's a functional piece of concealment furniture. So anyway, hope that you have enjoyed this, learned a little bit. If not anything else, just a little bit more about myself. I actually enjoyed making this video. I enjoy making all of my videos, but this was nice to just kind of chit chat and share a little bit more about myself. So if you like these kind of videos, just throw it into the comments. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about, or anything that you would want me to talk about, anything from my past or however, drop it into the comments. We may just start a chill session type of videos where I just talk about different life experiences and things like that, because I've experienced a lot. Anyway, you guys stay safe out there. Thanks for joining me with this and listening to my rambling. We'll see you next time.